A murder trial often makes for an interesting story, but not all cases like this get such massive media attention. So why is the Huguely trial getting this kind of coverage? NBC 29's Sharon Gregory is standing by live with that story. Good evening, Sharon.
Good evening, Libby. Well, it really depends on who you ask, but when you do ask the question, you get a wealth of opinions. We took a look at some of the reasons people are talking about. Then we asked a couple of people who are high profile in their own right to give us their opinions. From the day the crime was committed, it made headlines. In Charlottesville, across Virginia, and all across the country, media jumped on the story of the young lacrosse player from a wealthy family who police say brutally beat his ex-girlfriend to death. George Huguely had that athletic lacrosse look. His former girlfriend, Yardley Love, was petite, pretty, well-liked.
I think ultimately it's what sells that leads, and whoever is looking at this story and saying, this is very titillating, it's interesting to people, we're going to put it on, and obviously people are watching.
Rob Schilling is a former city councilman for Charlottesville turned talk show host on WINA. He knows what our website shows. By far, the Huguely story gets the most views.
You have a family who has access to a number of different resources, okay, which would significantly lend to such a media play.
Michelle Bates is the founder and executive director of a community development organization called The Female Perspective. She says other factors are at play here too. One is race, the other is money.
But unless we have relationships at other levels that will allow access to coverage, we might not have that same attention as this particular case may have, which lends to more of a class issue with a base of racism at the core.
I think the way that it plays is that when you're putting stories on the media, you're obviously putting things on that are attracting an audience, and perhaps there is a much larger audience that happens to be white.
A simple scan of the census in Charlottesville lends credence to the race argument. 73% of the population is white, and only 21% is black. Michelle says numbers equal power, and some in the African American community know it.
I've heard a considerable amount of feedback regarding it, but it more borderlines on, you know, this is the norm. I mean, this is what is expected, as opposed to, well, you know, they should have been covering other cases.
Other cases, like the one surrounding this man. Barry Bowles admitted to stabbing his wife Rachel 16 times, and a jury found him guilty just before the Huguely case came to court. The crime happened in Charlottesville, but the national media didn't swoop in. In the end, they both agree. No matter what happens in this murder trial or any other, it really only affects the families of the victim and the accused.
But here's another dynamic that's very critical to what has happened, and that is, does the family want to continue to relive that experience time and time again?
This is entertainment. This is news/entertainment. And I think that in many ways, if there are various communities, whether they be class or race-based communities, that are not getting this sort of attention for murder trials, they should count it a blessing.
And we all know the coverage isn't going away anytime soon. And both of them also say they believe that viewers will continue to watch until the next big headline comes along. Libby?
Sharon Gregory live in Charlottesville.